Hello, everyone, and welcome back after an unscheduled delay of your last Best Hope for Conversation, a Babylon 5 podcast. We are back in the CNC, mostly healthy now. I am one of your hosts, Jesse Jackson. Joining me, as always, is the podcast mom, Karen,
Hello.
and the Stephen King podcaster, Lou Sisma.
Hello, everyone.
So, yes, sorry for the delay. We had multiple things going on, including me being out of town, so I couldn't record. We had a couple of illnesses, and I want to think it's just because we didn't want to talk about Gray 17 is missing.
Could be.
JMS has been very clear that it is the episode of two cities, as they say. Half the episode I think is fascinating and really well done. The other is if you could give negative points, you would. At least that's my opinion. Gray 17 was originally aired October 7th, 1996. It is the 19th episode of season 3. And Karen, you want to give me some quick thoughts?
I don't know. Do I? I agree with you for real. There's a couple of movies that to me seem like two movies in one. Stripes is one of them. The other one is Full Metal Jacket. They seem like two completely disparate movies. And this is what I would say about Gray 17 is missing, is that it seems two completely different stories. They should have gone in two completely different episodes.
Okay. All right, Lou?
Yeah, I think you both have summed it up pretty well. My two biggest disappointments with this episode is a waste of a great guest star in Robert Englund, and
Absolutely.
giving Garibaldi a throwaway storyline when he's been sidelined for most of the big action this season. Why not give him a standalone storyline that somehow ties into the overall story arc? And it was just like, I just didn't understand it. And I guess this is their version of Arena with his makeshift gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. All right, so let's rip through the bad part of the episode first. And by the way, I'm not saying anything. JMS has talked about that this didn't work. One of the things he was very unhappy about is he had specifically told that you weren't supposed to ever see the creature, right? That similar to what we found accidentally when the fake shark did not work, Bruce in Jaws, Spielberg had to make this work without seeing it, and it ended up making it a much better film. They have a missing maintenance worker. Garibaldi goes to check it out. I thought one of the better scenes of that is him going through the elevator of all these different.
I agree.
1, 2, 3. One, and then I thought that was a good example of show, not tell. Like they show that, and then they cut back and then come back. You could tell he's been going through all of these different levels, and he's almost asleep. And all of a sudden, what? Wait. Once again, we'll start with you, Karen. And I agree, Robert Englund can be a great actor. That's not a very good part. I don't really understand what they're doing. His role just didn't make much sense for me. So anywhere you want to go with this one, Karen.
That whole thing with them being like a cult type thing on that weird floor that was skipped over, it did not make any sense at all. I am one of the people that think Robert Englund is hit or miss. I've seen him in a couple things where he's super over the top cheesy, like in this episode. And then I've seen him in other stuff where he's really a stellar actor. So I wasn't shocked by this. I was pleased to see him. I like him as a person. I think he's someone that always delights me to see him in something. So that part was good. The doll I could do without. I had nightmares when I was a child when just the commercials for Magic, the movie, came on. And so this kind of reminded me of that type of dummy. And it was weird that like when Garibaldi woke up, the dummy was all tattered. What happened there? Just to nitpick the whole thing, it was just discordant, didn't make any sense. Why would they have created this cult down there? Why did they allow creatures like that on Babylon 5? Garibaldi was familiar with them and mentioned that they were some of the most dangerous creatures on Babylon 5. Why are they there then if they're dangerous? I don't know. It was so irritating to me, this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I hated that we've wanted a Garibaldi storyline for quite some time now, quite a few episodes. And for him to get given this, it was like insult upon injury.
Yeah. And according to Lurker's Guide, there was a line, something about there was sneaking in an egg, right? So that's how probably it got on there. Yeah.
Still such a plot hole.
Yeah, very much. Well,
and I heard that he apologizes for this episode. So
yes, he said that I want to go knock door to door and say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then, and I really do think it is. He talks about it, and this is not spoilery. The next 3 episodes are often cited as some of his best episodes.
So is he trying to lull us into a false sense of security here?
He says, could that have been because he was so thinking of this final trilogy that he was there? Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I agree with you. It just doesn't make any sense. And if he wanted, and I do think he was trying to do a different kind of eerie, scary episode. And just sometimes when you try, it doesn't work. Lou, how about you?
Yeah, I think with the inclusion of Robert Englund, I thought, because like Karen mentioned the doll, I thought they were going for a little bit of a Halloween. Maybe this their Halloween episode. I don't know, but it
was in October.
Yeah, so it initially felt like that, and that what do you call it? The ventriloquist, the doll, to me they were trying to set up the atmosphere, and especially Englund's first speech when he's like holding up his hand, and you're automatically thinking of Freddy Krueger with the claws, the razor blade glove and whatnot. Yeah. But after that, it just, like Karen said, this whole storyline was so undercooked. How could you have a whole deck not accounted for, even if it is one of the lesser used or well levels? I just don't believe that somebody would be that negligent. They didn't explain how that deck came to be. All the nitpicks are just coming out in droves in this thing. And again, what a waste of Robert Englund. He basically had one line about being part of the universe and having to transcend to that level. And he must have said that line about 50 different ways, but it was the same line every time. And I was going like, I can't believe that they're wasting this guest star with this terrible dialogue. And I just don't have anything good to say about it. And so I'll stop.
No, yeah. And if you guys remember, if you can remember that long ago, the episode we talked, I said, okay, and this is the last, I warned, I said not to be spoilers, but this is the last bad episode of the season. And because this is so bad, this part of the storyline, I totally forgot the other part of the storyline, which we will turn to now, I thought was amazing.
Yeah. Right? And important.
Yeah. Because they have now, and it's a little unclear if they are just saying that Ambassador Sinclair died somehow. I don't think they're telling people, yeah, he went back in the past and became Valen.
No, I would assume no.
Yeah. But Delenn goes and gets his last possessions, and including in that was his Ranger pin. It also included his medal for at the line and a few other things. It's the medal for fighting in the battle line, his identicard, Earth Force insignia, and his Ranger brooch. And we'll get this over to his family. So there's now a void, similar to, as we're recording this, in the House of Representatives. Yeah.
Oh, you went there.
Yes, I did. Yeah. They need to have a new Ranger 1. And by far, everyone's belief is it's got to be Delenn, right? It's got to be Delenn.
Mostly everyone, yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, and we get back, I think, the wonderful actor who plays
Naroon,
coming back and going no. And
John Vickery.
yeah, so I want to say for a moment that if you look at it from the side and not believing that we do that Delenn is a hero, he's got a point, right? This person, you've disbanded the Great Council, so they are leaderless. A religious zealot is taking over a armed force. That's one step away from a dictatorship, and he's no more. Lou, I'm going to start with you this time. Let's talk about up to the Marcus and Naroon intersection. So let's up till that. Any thoughts or feelings?
Yeah, it was great to see the actor return, John Vicker, that played Naroon. He's an interesting character because he is given motivations that you can understand. As you mentioned, his points about Delenn's validity as the Ranger One replacement. He has some good arguments as to why she shouldn't become the Ranger leader. And I thought that was all really well played. And his concern is so great that he is willing to potentially forego or break a long-standing act or law or social more, that he is considering killing her. And who does Bill Mummy play? What's his character? Linear? Do we want to talk about him now too?
Yeah, let's do.
Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And I love the interplay between Delenn and Linear. I especially that he makes a promise to her that he won't tell the captain, and that leads into the next part of the discussion that we want to get to. But again, such an understated character, Linear, and yet he is probably one of my favorite characters because he is always on a higher moral path, and yet he realizes the reality of the situation, which Delenn is still a little bit naive about.
Yeah, Karen.
I agree. I think that Lanier, being her aide, lends more credibility to her becoming the head ranger. We have seen him fight, and he is really good in a fight. So that allows us to have in our mind that they're a religious caste, but they're not powerless. They don't just pray the violence away. And I did love how he did that triple speak to Marcus. I know we're not getting there yet, but we're talking about Lanier.
Go ahead and
I want to talk about the other part too, about Naroon. That actor is amazing on the show. He's played a couple different characters, but by far, I think Naroon is his kind of tour de force. He is a character that, and I admit, while I was watching it, there was part of my brain that was going, why would they want her to be in charge of the Rangers? I got it. Why he was so adamant about her not becoming the head of the Rangers. And I also get why he didn't want a human in charge of the Rangers at first. And especially Sinclair, because Sinclair killed a lot of them, a lot of Minbari. And you mentioned he had his medal there from his tenure in the war. That's controversial in itself. And then when he, and I'm putting air quotes around it, dies and needs a successor, I could see why he'd want to have someone completely different, not in this line of succession. He would want someone that is a war person. Why is Marcus too low on the totem pole to take that over? I would assume that he would have a bunch of people in charge that he'd have in his mind if it's not him. I completely understand. And that's what I love about villains and heroes, is that in this case, it's hard to say that they're villains or heroes, both Delenn and Naroon. It's that balance of, are they gray? And of course, they're both gray. Delenn, we know she's a good person, but she's done some questionable things when it comes to the Minbari culture. She's become human, and that's a big deal. She has made some very controversial choices, which is why she gets thrown off the Grey Council. So it's that storyline is just chock full of nuance for those two characters. And I love that. And then if we want to go on to Lanier is not that gray. He is quite white.
Yeah.
He's the white knight kind of person and in their duality. And I believe that every single thing, every choice he makes is for the good of the situation. And he does that here with Marcus, where he talks to Marcus. Marcus, of course, makes his snarky little comment about his double speak, triple speak. And Lanier makes it clear that you can't tell the captain without saying it. You can't tell the captain, but I need you to interfere with Naroon so that we can get Delenn sworn in.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just brilliant of him to make those connections for Marcus. And man, that fight scene, just on the end of things there, that fight scene is really good. I do like the blocking in their fight scenes, especially with Marcus and his bow staff. It was really good. I believed 100% that Naroon might have overpowered him a little bit because the Rangers aren't warriors. They're good and they serve their purpose, but they might not be the be all end all fighter type person.
Yeah.
So
well, I tend to think of the Rangers as where the modern, what is it? Pentathlon. It's not the decathlon, but there is another Olympic sport that was based on where you had to you have to shoot, you have to ride a horse, you have to, because it was based on the Rangers think of as just a really good scouts. So they aren't good at everything necessarily, but
when you put it all together, they're well-rounded. They're more like a Renaissance fighter.
Yeah, exactly.
Where the warrior caste is, they're the military. And I would think of maybe, and this would be in an ideal world, there's the military and the police force.
Yeah.
And so the Rangers would be more like the police force, where they're doing that kind of job. They're having to balance things. And the military would be militant and all that. So, yeah. And I really loved the little interaction, even though we didn't get to hear what they were talking about necessarily after Marcus's line to Naroon in the hospital. I thought that was very good as well.
Yes. So Lou, go back to you and then I'll share a little bit. But so I'd love to hear your thoughts about Lanier trying to tiptoe through the entanglements because he doesn't want to break his vow to Delenn, but at the same time, he can't sit there and do nothing. And also, I thought of this a little bit of the old TV show Kung Fu, where David Carradine was a monk, but he also had learned how to fight. So I always think of that a little bit with the Lanier character. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Lanier's conversation with, God, what's his name? Marcus. And his outlining of his thought process about how to get around not breaking his promise to Delenn. And I thought that was a nice piece of dialogue. I don't know if Bill Mumy got those lines right on the first take, but I'd be interested to know how many takes it took to get that scene, because that was definitely a bit of twisted logic type of dialogue that I don't think would be just roll off the tongue that easily. But he did it, and Marcus had a great reaction to it. And you got to love Lanier's devotion to Delenn, but still his ability to think outside the box and protect her in a way that she's not expecting.
I want to interrupt you, Lou, just because I can't remember the episode, but there is that earlier where Garibaldi is talking to the Earth official, and he's, hey, as the head of security, I'm not going to tell myself. That's too important for even me to know. That was the same kind of double speak, right?
Yep.
That, and when the guy says, you live in a very interesting world. Yeah, I felt that same way in this one. Yeah, and I want to go back to something you said, then I'll let you finish, right? Naroon is so worried about the planet and the future of the Minbari. He is almost willing to damn his soul. And this is my words, not his. Like, I'm willing to sacrifice myself and my honor and everything to do the right thing.
Right.
I'm going to do the wrong thing, but for the right thing, which is a dangerous thought. Okay, go ahead, Lou.
Yeah. So then, of course, we get into the fight, which, and I agree with Karen. I thought the blocking on that was really well done. I almost wish that those quarterstaffs were electrified or something because it was very much like a duel of fates kind of
Yeah,
battle. I really liked that. And this scene also echoed the conversations that Naroon had with Sinclair
yeah,
about his you act like a Minbari, think like a
yeah,
Minbari. And in this episode, Naroon was taken back that Marcus was willing to play his life down to protect Delenn. So again, he's seeing humans do things that surprise him. And I you could say that he was looking for something to stop him from doing what he thought he had to do, but I still think it was pretty powerfully done. And it was really a nice touch when when Naroon walked into the ceremony area where they were making Delenn the leader of the Rangers and dropped that quarterstaff with all the blood on it. I thought that was
yeah.
a really powerful visual symbol. I'm curious to see how the relationship between Delenn and Marcus and Lanier and Marcus evolves from this episode because on the one hand, you've got Delenn who must feel very gratified and concerned about the willingness of people like Marcus to lay their lives down for her. And then you've got Lanier who almost caused potentially Marcus to be killed. And how will he handle that? Because it sounded like in the speech that he gave to Delenn after the event in the sick bay, where he said that you have to realize that you're in a position where people are going to try to hurt you, and some people will give up their lives to protect you. I think that's easy to say to her, but when he meets Marcus again, I wonder how the two of them are going to interact. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out.
Can I just say that now that you mention it about Naroon coming in and dropping the staff, that's very nicely subverted here, because usually that would be a sign that he wins. I'm going to drop the sword and prove to you that I have bested your warrior. But in this case, it's him saying that you win. I'm dropping this because your warrior showed me that you are worthy. That's a very interesting thing to think about.
I agree. And then the idea of him, I don't think they die for me, and they would die for you, really shook him to his core. And the fight scene was amazing. You're right. It is in the discussion. Oh, I've broken your ribs. Oh, I'm sorry. I've broken another one. And the idea that you can't beat me, that I was trained by blah, 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 blah. And so was I. And Marcus is on a suicide mission. He knows he will die, but if he can just delay enough to give Delenn a chance to be, because once she's crowned or whatever picked, then you can't undo it. And the other thought I loved is him Naroon walking into sick bay, and this is between warriors or something along that line, right? And he isn't sure that Marcus can hear him, and I thought that monologue was beautiful. To the death, and the what did, but what died was, and then to hear Marcus be so Marcus. Hopefully, the next time you need an epiphany, it will be one less painful.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the behind the scenes treats was someone had told the actor who played Naroon a joke, and he had laughed out loud, and they just happened to be filming, and so they were able to insert
His laughing.
his
That's
laughing.
awesome.
Yeah, but it isn't he's totally okay with everything that Delenn's done. Just at this point, they've reached an impasse.
He thinks it's for the best. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, I think this was really beautifully done, gave us a chance to learn more. We also get some stories. Delenn's talking about her parents and how her mother ended up leaving her to go be basically a nun, her father. So I really like the Delenn and this part of it a lot.
And we
Go
can't
ahead.
forget that Delenn and Sheridan had a really nice scene together.
Yes.
That was sweet. I'm assuming that kind of progresses their relationship a little bit more.
Hmm.
Um, uh, for such a terrible episode, that part of it was very rich and very forward moving in the arc.
Yeah, and one minor subplot was they're trying to recruit telepaths. We got a pretty funny comedian just wanting the job. Oh, yeah.
How
And
much?
yeah, okay. So I thought that was pretty nice.
Yeah.
And
Side note, his
yeah,
name is Harry Sanders. I just thought I'd let you guys know he's not
yeah,
credited as Harry
yes.
Sanders, but that
Yeah,
that dude's name is.
yeah, because I was looking him up. I was trying to find him because he looks like somebody we should know, but he's very good in it. And
Yeah, he's
I
funny.
yeah, he was very funny.
And we got to see Zach, which is always a treat. He was
Yes.
good too.
And I figured our audience was yelling at me. We had a discussion about why isn't Franklin having addiction issues,
Withdrawals, right?
withdrawals, and they answered that this
Yeah,
time.
yeah. I
Um,
appreciated that.
I did too, and I also like the fact that you guys got to quit coming to me.
Yeah.
I'm on this journey, and he says they decided that, hey, let's go to Franklin because he has the Underground Telepath Railroad that similar to Harriet Tubman, the Underground Railroad during the Civil War and pre-Civil War. So this is the last time you have to leave me alone till I work through this thing. So I
I
was
keep trying to leave and you keep sucking me
pulling me
back
back.
in. Yep.
But I was happy to see that because we had discussed about addiction and I had not remembered, like I said, because this is not an episode that I think that highly about. So I don't rewatch it very often. So I was like, oh, wow, I should have said, yeah, they're going to address that later, team. So,
I think
yeah,
it's funny that this episode is listed when people make lists of how important an episode is. This episode is made a skip episode, and someone drew the parallel idea that maybe it's a skip episode because of level 17 or grade
yeah,
17 of it being skipped.
yeah.
They were
Oh, yeah,
making a meta joke about it.
yeah.
So.
Yeah, but I do think that now that you think about it, seeing we live for the one, we die for the one in Zalde Sinde in Valen's name.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and I do love Marcus's I am a ranger. We walk in the dark places no one may enter. We stand on the bridge and no one may pass. We live for the one, we die for the one.
Mm-hmm. That's
Just
the
really,
Ranger Creed, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get a little funny end where, Sheridan's like, where the hell you been? And Garibaldi,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
what a day. Yeah, what a day I've had. You. So that's kind of it. Any final thoughts?
That
Anything
might
we
have been the
didn't cover?
best part of Garibaldi's storyline is him
Yes.
summing up what happened to him, which sounds ridiculous because spoiler alert, it is ridiculous.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Am
All
I
right.
going too fast for you?
Yeah, exactly.
Not fast enough. Not fast enough.
The other thing that Stravinsky mentions is he really was unhappy with he didn't explain better why those bullets were in his pocket. So why are you cleaning your grandmother's gun? I just felt like it. It's because
and it just happened to work in his favor.
Yeah.
It's the prototypical Chekhov's gun.
Correct.
Yes, it is.
Although in this case, it's Chekhov's bullets.
Yeah, but we never
Yes.
saw the bullets until he pulled them out of his pocket.
That's right.
Yeah.
We did not.
Mhm. All right. Anything else?
I felt funny about this episode when I went to look it up on IMDb. It actually aired the day after I got married in real life. So it was
Ah.
like, oh, that's cool. So
That's nice.
I was on
Mhm.
my way to my honeymoon that day.
Oh, hey, very cool. Good. All right. Anything else? I can't think of anything. You guys got anything?
Nope.
No,
Okay.
no, absolutely not.
All right. I'm going to start. I'll rate it. I'm going to go 7 out of 10 Membari belly laughs. just because I think Delenn's storyline in the room is so well done, and I think this will come. I have a sneaking feeling that this will not be the last time we kind of address this. So that's the thing that saves the episode.
Do you really have a sneaking suspicion, or do
I
you?
do have a sneaking suspicion.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So I told you I looked it up on IMDb, and their rating is a 6.6. So that's what I'm going to give it, a 6.6 bloody bow
Perfect.
staffs.
Ooh, nice.
Took mine.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You can
That's
do the
okay.
regular bow staff if you want.
Yeah. Because the episode is like a tale of two cities, it's pretty easy to ignore the one city and focus on the other cities. Like you, Jesse, I'm going to give it a 7 because that part of the episode was so well done. And
Creepy dolls, bullets.
yeah, creepy doll bullets. I think I'll go with Lanier's monologue.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, Lanier's twisting logic. Yeah. Very
Yeah.
nice. All right.
Good.
Yeah, we got a couple of emails, but
We
it
did.
was weeks ago, so I
Yeah.
don't know if you have them.
Nope, I have them up.
Okay, super.
I starred them in my Gmail box. Okay, so this is from David, who, by the way, inquired about how we were feeling. He was following up on the fact that we hadn't published in a while. And I just want to say thank you. That was really sweet. I was touched by that.
Absolutely.
He says, last week I swore I would keep it short. This week, so I will. For the A plot, I will refer to 2 quotes. Half of this episode I love. The other half should be tied to a rock and dumped in the ocean. I am willing to knock on the door of every Babylon 5 fan and personally apologize for the episode Grey 17 is missing. How bad is it? Both quotes are from JMS. Now that we've got that out of the way, this episode does have its good points. We see the divisions between the religious caste and warrior caste starting to be a problem. I'll be curious if you caught one of Narun's lines, or more specifically, a word. Lanier has been hanging around humans too much. He's learned about obeying the letter of command, but not the spirit. At least Marcus calls him out on it. Question: how did Narun get on board with Delenn knowing about it? You would think each race would have a list of VIPs that security would alert that race's ambassador about the visit. As former leader of the Grey Council, I would say Narun qualifies. True. Yeah, and we see that she is seeing people come on board. I was under the impression that the Rangers were started by Sinclair when he was assigned on Minbari. Now they are saying they were formed 1,000 years ago by Valen under the military caste. Sure, it's the same guy, but how did Sinclair get enough pull in such a short time on Minbari to be placed in charge? The Grey Council knew Sinclair was the reincarnated Valen. Is that why? I don't think they knew that. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, my opinion is that Valen, when the past, having the Vorlons there, taking control, he already set a lot of the rules, set up the Great Council. So it was I think it would have been very okay for them that kind of this was their leader, so they set it up. And then the Rangers had just been had gone to nothing. And then when Sinclair went back, the modern day Sinclair, he decided to revamp because he knew that the Shadow War was coming. And that's when he pushed to have humans, which the warrior caste was not happy with, but they accepted the fact, okay, this is what we've got to do. Yeah. Yeah,
I agree. I think that he set himself up essentially in the past to be.
Yeah.
Because we know that Delenn wanted him to be the leader of the Rangers, and we just didn't know why. We get a tender moment for Delenn and John, get a bit of Delenn's backstory. To be honest, I thought it was a bit sad. Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The 2 scenes for the telepath recruiting, the first one was just awful, IMO, and Susan chasing down Franklin was better. We at least see him suffering through withdrawal. Marcus catches up with Narun and the fight ensues. This led to one of the meanest practical jokes played on a cast member. Weeks before, JMS had dropped hints to assorted cast and crew that Marcus wouldn't be needed after this episode. He would be killed off. Jason Carter is understandably upset by this, so when he gets the script, he quickly reads it, only to find out his part ends in the fight scene. He didn't even rate a death scene. So on the last day of shooting, he's given another scene in which he dies in med lab, telling Delenn and Lanier, "We live for the one, we die for the..." They rehearse the scene, then go to lunch. Jason starts gathering his personal stuff, saying goodbyes, etc. After lunch, they give him more revised scenes to rehearse with John Vickery. He opens it up to read his lines, and on the first page it said, "You can relax now, you survived." It's funny. Next week, hallelujah, we get an update on the Earth situation, and Londo plays 4D chess while everyone else plays checkers. Till next week.
Nice.
Thank you, David. Awesome email. And then we have Texas on the Shock. Yay. If when you were starting out, I had told you Freddy Krueger would be on the show, would you believe me? My answer would be yes. He was one of those character actors. What about you, Lou? Were you surprised that he would be on the show?
No, not really. They've done it with other actors of his cliche or cachet, I should say. So I wasn't that surprised. It was just unfortunate how poorly they used him.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So we come to what is generally considered the weakest episode of the entire season, at least one half of it. The other half is great, and the result is the episode has this strange, lopsided feel to it. The highlight of the episode for me is that final moment between Marcus and Naroon. Marcus actually makes him laugh. I don't think we've ever seen a member of the Warrior cast laugh. They generally seem rather humorless. So I'm bringing it up here since it begins and ends with Marcus recovering from this fight. But I thought I'd give a quick summary of the novel To Dream in the City of Sorrows, since I don't think you'll ever get a chance to read it. But on the off chance you do or just don't care, go ahead and skip to the end.
So I'm gonna skip that, though. I do recommend you guys read it. It is, I don't know if it's considered canon, but it is worth reading. I remember really loving the novel when I read it, and it goes into more of Sinclair's time as the ambassador.
Yeah, I was gonna say Lou and I will read this behind the scenes, but I'm gonna skip it.
Okay.
Here. And he says, at the end of the book, Marcus is on Minbar recovering from his fight with Naroon when Rathan, the Minbari who brought the message to Sinclair, appears with another letter from the past addressed to Marcus. The letter thanks him for his help from both of them, implying Jeff did find Catherine in the past. This is reinforced in the comic In Valen's Name, which I have never actually read, where the crew go to find the ruined Hulk of Babylon 4 and find messages from Valen aboard saying that he found her. Anyway, until next time, assuming this episode or my email hasn't made you overly cranky or grouchy or crotchety, whatever. This is the Texas Shock signing off In Valen's Name. And I'm assuming it's the cranky, grouchy, crotchety that is the hint for the next episode. Jesse is putting his hands over his mouth. Yep. I like that he gives us hints. Or they give us hints. Sorry.
I do too. I love that they do that. I absolutely agree. Yes. And I think we've got one more.
I don't have another one.
Okay, let me look and see. Nathan sent something.
Oh, okay.
And here, I'll read it since... Hi, guys. I wrote in the first season that Earth episodes are usually less interesting than the alien ones, and Garibaldi-centric episodes are the worst. This one is a perfect illustration.
Yeah.
JMS tries to stitch together horror tropes into a narrative, but without additional passes, it just doesn't work. The whole thing became a bad B movie quite quickly. If it was the bulk of the episode, it would have been one of the worst in the whole series, which is why it's baffling that the name of the episode doesn't fit the actual A story for some reason, and a far better one. Naroon's revelation was unexpected for me. In his previous appearances, he was quite unbending and gloating, even though he paid a token of respect to Sinclair. But it seems to me that it was more of a what can you do against higher ups type of bonding rather than more genuine. Turns out I was mistaken. And Marcus's sarcastic joke is amazing here. JMS's humor doesn't always work, but the jabs Marcus does fits the character quite well and always hit. With regards, Nathan. Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate that a lot. Good. It has been a while since we posted, but is there anything that you want to bring up from the YouTube channel, Lou?
No, not really.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah, because it's been so long.
Walkabout didn't get very many comments. So
Yeah, no, not at all. Okay, if someone wants to reach out to you, Lou, how can they?
they can find me obviously on YouTube at Lou's Reviews, where you find this podcast along with our JKL Media podcast, where we're almost done 12 Monkeys. We're down to the final 2 episodes, and we'll be talking about those next week. But today we're going to be doing the 4 episodes that lead up to the finale. So that will be awesome. As well, you can find my writer podcast interviews as well as my Stephen King podcast. And I think we're going to have to schedule a session to do a Holly review.
Yeah,
That
we are.
that was just the question I was going to ask because I have finished the book,
Cool.
loved it,
Excellent.
and yeah, and so I was wondering if you had done a review yet
No, I haven't.
because okay, yeah, let's figure offline how I can be part of that if you don't mind.
Sure.
All right. And Karen, yourself?
You can find me at Elveria on various social media sites. There's a link in my Twitter bio to my blog, at which you could find a bunch of other links on my landing page.
And I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter, aka X, and would love for you guys to send us any email at jklb5podcast@gmail.com and let us know what you're thinking. Next week, and The Rock cried out, "No hiding place." This is a fun one, but for now, thank you, Karen. Thank you, Lou. Thank you, listeners. Let's all be kind, be safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye bye.